We are here with Tobin Van Ostern from Campus Porgress. Tobin has been a volunteer and activist for Obama's last campaign in 2008, and it works for Campus Porgress now. So, Tobin, can you tell us a little bit about the differences between this campaign and the campaign 4 years ago?
Sure. Well, I think that, personally it's very different because I'm no longer working on the campaign full time, and so it's been very interesting to see it from a different perspective. But I think the campaign itself is also very different. Part of that is that he's now the president. There's certain changes when you're the incumbent, good and bad, and I think that dramatically changes the nature of the election. And I also think that the issues that we're talking about have changed a lot as well from even just 4 or 5 years ago. So I do think it's actually pretty different.
Tell us a little bit about your experience in 2008. I remember that you met Obama in a few occasions, and can you tell us about what was it that you were doing? What was your main part of your activism?
Absolutely. So last campaign cycle, I served as the national director of Students for Barack Obama. So that was part of the National Youth Vote team, and I basically coordinated all of the Students for Obama chapters around the country for both the primary and then for the general election as well. And
this year, well, in the last election, 2008, Obama seems to have definitely had the favor of most of the young voters, and he also galvanized a lot of those voters. This year doesn't seem to be the same case. Why do you think the president lost a little bit of his appeal to the younger voters?
You're definitely right that the enthusiasm seems to be a little bit lower than last time. I don't know. It's impossible for me to predict what it'll be like exactly, but it'll probably be a little bit lower youth turnout than last time. With that said, the president's support has still held up very well amongst young voters here. So it's a kind of interesting situation where as a percentage, less young people might vote. But he still has a huge lead over Governor Romney. What I would note, in addition to that, though, that I think will play out throughout this election is there are millions more young people who can now vote compared to last time, about 10 million more. So even if the number who vote is slightly less, there are actually more of them, and so I think there'll be millions new young people voting for the first time just because they're now 18 and can finally vote. And I think that will happen regardless of exactly what the enthusiasm is like.
Let's talk a little bit about Obama's performance. I do understand that when he took office, the economic situation was pretty dramatic, and I would like to have your opinion about whether people realize, in your opinion, that Obama inherited a very tough situation, or probably they're disappointed about Obama's performance. What sort of feeling do you think is prevailing? The fact that they're disappointed, or the fact that anyway Obama inherited that tough situation?
Well, I think people actually do understand just how dire things were as he was taking office in those first few months. With that said, though, it's a stark fact that millions of people are unemployed. Millions of people who had jobs 5 or 6 years ago. And so I think for them, it's not a matter of not understanding exactly what happened. It's just a matter of, there are different priorities in their life. If you're a young person and you don't have a job, your first priority is to get a job, and I think that can contribute to the enthusiasm issue you were just talking about. But I do think that if you look at any polling here in terms of who has the best path forward, I think that you're seeing a smoother transition of President Obama's last 4 years into what could be his next 4 years. Investments in education, investments in the lower and middle class. He's done that the last 4 years, and I think people realize that's a good recipe to get out of this crisis, and if they think that, then they're supporting him.
What would you criticize about Obama's 4 years? Was there anything that you think it did wrong or it could have done better?
so the first big thing he did was the stimulus here, but the second was healthcare reform, or Obamacare. So I think the Obamacare took a very long time, and I think it's a very important piece of legislation. However, I think that he spent too much time trying to get Senate Republican support before ultimately deciding to do it via sort of a legislative maneuver and get it passed. Now, no one's talking about how he got it passed, just the fact that he did get it passed. And I think that's one example of something where I would have liked to see him move more aggressively and a little bit faster as president.
Is there anything good that you would take from Romney's agenda?
Well, I think the problem with Governor Romney recently is that it's become harder to see exactly what his stance is on certain issues. There are certainly things he says that I would agree with, such as making sure there's not a drop in the percentage of taxes those making over $1 million make. But then his proposals in terms of how he would actually do that don't end up at the same outcome. So it's one of those situations where there's certainly things I could point out and say, yes, I think that's a good idea. But unfortunately, his specific proposals or ideas he supports.
But people have been criticizing as well, some of the media have been criticizing as well the fact that Obama didn't actually have a real plan for the second re-election. I mean, it doesn't seem to be clear what Obama wants to do, what are his plans for these next 4 years. Would you agree with that?
I wouldn't exactly agree. I would say that two things. One, I think that his plan for the next 4 years is similar to what he's focused his priorities on the last 4 years. And so I don't think it's going to be a dramatic departure from that. Investing in education, investing in infrastructure, making sure the economy continues to improve. I mean, I think those kinds of things are going to be his focus for the next 4 years. What I do think is hard to predict is exactly how if he wins re-election, how the opposition party will respond. They've spent the last 4 years opposing everything. He's even ideas the Republican Party created by themselves. They opposed when the president signed on in support of them. Now, if they lose, maybe they'll decide that's not a good strategy for governing the United States. And if so, then that could result in a very different 4 years. Or maybe they double down and decide to just keep opposing everything he's going to do. And so I think that will have a significant impact. But all that said, I do think that he'll have similar priorities to last time. And I think that most Americans would agree that the country is improving right now. It's on the right track. And I think that those that feel that way are the ones that will turn out and vote for the president.
So one last question: where will you be standing next Tuesday when the new president of the United States will be announced?
Well, I'm planning on taking a day off work and going out and knocking on doors Tuesday, canvassing in Virginia, which is a battleground state, making sure people turn out and vote. So that's my plan for the day. In terms of when the announcement comes in, I'm hopeful it'll be quick. It was last time, but I'm a little concerned with the hurricane and things like that. Some of these results might come in a little bit slower. So I don't know. Maybe I might be in PJs by the time it gets announced. I'm not sure.
Well, thank you very much, Tobin, for being with us, and good luck with your election on Tuesday.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.